Steph Curry entering his 17th season, and he sat down with Complex, talked about how much longer he plans on playing. Take a listen.
I do know I'm kind of just taking it in 2-year chunks, just to know, like, you have to give yourself something and some motivation to kind of go after. For us, like, I talked to all the guys who have been in this situation where they've extended their prime, and, you know, there are more ungraceful endings than there are, for sure. You know, I tip the cap and like that type of thing. But I just want to be in a position where I've accomplished, or I've put myself in a position where I can say I've done everything I can to, you know, get everything out of this game, and hopefully I have, you know, my health and the choice to say I'm
hanging
good.
It up.
I'm good. I'm not nowhere close to that though.
For sure. So we got some more years from you.
For sure.
Oh, man, well, Steph fans will love that. The rest of the Western Conference, maybe not so much. Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Vanessa Richardson, and, of course, from Malika Andrews. Joined here today in our L.A. studios, we've got senior writers Ramona Shelburne, Tim Bontemps, and we are also joined by Anscape's David Dennis Jr. DDJ, you've been around Curry for over 20 years. What does Steph's last stretch of his career look like?
So here are two things I could say about what the end of Steph Curry's career is going to look like. That'll sort of be a testament to the greatness that I expect. One is, no matter if this is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, when Steph Curry gets hot in a given quarter, it'll always be the greatest show in basketball, maybe the greatest show in sports. It'll be something that people will always be calling about and saying, hey, Steph is catching fire and he's raining threes, no matter when that happens in his career. The other thing is that at the very last game, important game that he plays, again, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, whatever, when he crosses half court, he's going to get double teamed because he will always be a guy who strikes fear in defenders until he, you know, walks away from the game. He will always be somebody who will be a versatile offensive dude, and all respect to my guy Steph, he's never quite relied on athleticism and explosiveness and all that stuff, so he doesn't have to worry about that falling by the wayside. The shot will be there, the ball movement will be there, and he will be somebody who will be part of a team that can be at least making noise in the playoffs just by virtue of having him on that team.
You hear David saying 3 years, 4 years. Tim, Steph turns 38 in March. So how can the Warriors maximize the rest of his career?
I mean, I think it's what they've been doing, right? They traded for Jimmy Butler last year. They've gone out and tried to get, you know, talked about getting LeBron James and obviously some things that are more fantasy trades than real trades in the past. And they've made other moves to try to get better. We'll see what happens the rest of the summer once they get the Jonathan Kuminga situation sorted out. I think it's likely that Al Horford winds up there. DeAnthony Melton, who was there last year before he tore his ACL, could wind up there too. The Warriors are going to try to straddle a couple things, right? If they can get a move where they can go all in to get another star at some point, I'm sure they'll try to do that. Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy and the Warriors front office has always been extraordinarily aggressive in trying to maximize how good this team can be. But Steph Curry also understands, as he said there, that he has chosen to finish his career with the Warriors. He wants to play his whole career there, as he should. And so the goal is for everybody involved to try to have the Warriors be as good as they can be for the rest of Steph's career, and for Steph to finish his career as a one-team player and go down like Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant and Dirk Nowitzki and some of these all-time great players who have I think the special way their career played out, where they get to win a title and spend their whole career playing for one franchise.
He said, I'm going to take this in 2-year increments. And I think what's great that happened last year when they traded for Jimmy Butler is they finally have clarity now. This is what they're doing. They're maximizing the Steph Curry next 2 years. But he also said, I can see myself playing for 3 or 4 years. Right. And so I don't know what happens after those 2 years, but I do know they have picked a lane. There was this two-timeline era for a while. They were kind of trying to bring along Kuminga and some of those other young guys and say, you guys are going to be the torch, you're going to pass the torch to those. That's not happening anymore. This is now Steph Curry's all in. We're just going to keep making trades and trying to maximize these 2 years. Steve Kerr was lined up with him. Jimmy's lined up with him. Draymond Green's lined up.
Yeah, all the veterans.
So, you know what? For the next 2 years, they got clarity. And I think Steph will, as David said, I think he does age well. I just can't believe he's going to be 38. That's unbelievable. He's still, I was going to say he still looks like he's 12, but then I see videos of him earlier in his career, and I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 12 and now 15 or 17.
Well, speaking of age, he's not the only unk in the league. At the age of 37 in just over 4 months, Steph is the 8th oldest player currently on an NBA roster. Now, he will go down a spot when Al Horford inevitably signs somewhere. Steph trails a group that includes CP3 and LeBron James. And just in case you were wondering, the oldest player since 1950, how about this name? Kevin Willis. You guys remember
Kevin
him?
Willis,
He ended his career in April of 2007 at the age of 44 years and 224 days. LeBron would need to play on opening night of the 2020-30 season to pass Willis. So in a league that seems to be getting younger and younger and younger, LeBron and Steph continue to just really push that needle, both making all NBA second team last season. DDJ, do you think Steph and LeBron have one more title run in their careers?
Look, the last thing I'm going to do is sit here and count Stephen Curry and LeBron James out. I'm not doing it. And with the parity in the league, who knows what will happen in the next few years. They can slide in, injuries happen for other teams, things like that. Who knows? I'm not counting those dudes out. But what's the most fascinating thing about this is the LeBron side of this. Steph, as we said, we kind of know what these next few years are going to be like. He's going to be a warrior. They're going to retool in a couple years. They're going to figure this out. LeBron James, at the beginning of February, we felt like we knew what the end of his career was going to look like. He's going to play with the Lakers for a couple years, try to get a championship, and that'll be it. The Luka Doncic thing, adding him has changed the trajectory of the Lakers, and it's changed the trajectory of LeBron James's career. Now we know, I can imagine he's going to finish this year with the Lakers, despite all the stuff that him and Rich Paul have said and everything's happened in the offseason. But the year after that, I have no clue what that year of LeBron's career looks like. The Lakers don't know. LeBron doesn't know. I don't know if he'll be a Laker. I don't know if he'll end up at another team with another contender. This is probably the most question marks we've had about LeBron and his career since the beginning. The guy plans out everything. Now so much is up in the air, and that leaves a possibility of a championship run, or who knows, as he closes this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the LeBron James situation will be interesting to see how it plays out over the next several months and over the next years to see where he plays next season and how this season plays out, presumably his final year with the Lakers. But I think when you look at where the league is sitting right now, we had a team last year that won 68 games, won the title, had 2 players over 27 on the roster, and their oldest player was 31. And they just gave the 3 stars on their team, who are all in their mid-20s or younger, about $1 billion, it felt like, combined in long-term contracts, right? So they obviously need some health. Obviously, see the Oklahoma City Thunder raising the Larry O'Brien trophy there. They need some health and some luck to be able to continue on and be the team that ends this era of parity that we're in. But if you look at how the playoffs played out, you saw the Pacers in the championship round with the Thunder, another young team with depth. You saw the Knicks, a pretty young team with a decent amount of depth, and Minnesota Timberwolves, again, another team with a young group, a young nucleus led by Anthony Davis. I think we're seeing the league trend towards younger teams, deeper teams, being able to hold up in the physicality and the intensity and the pure athleticism you need to succeed in the league right now. So we'll see about teams like the Warriors and the Clippers and the Lakers that are more built around veteran players, older teams. But I think we're seeing a bit of a sea change, and I think the Thunder finally are positioned to be the team to end this era of parity we've been in and create the next dynasty in the league.
So I could have sat here last July and said a very similar thing about the Celtics. I think it probably did in July. And then the year before that, I think we said the same thing about the Nuggets, who had won a championship and had this young core that seemed like they had just hit their prime at the right time. And we just keep having new champions. Like each year, we think somebody is destined to go be the next dynasty. There is another, they seem built for success in the long term. And each year, it doesn't happen. And so as much as I agree with you, Tim, that the Thunder are extremely well positioned, they finally broke through, it seems like they could win for the next 5 years, all evidence in the NBA for the last 6-7 years has been that somebody else is going to win. And when you go, well, now it's 27-year-olds winning, and this year it was obviously 25-year-olds winning. Well, what if it swings back and it's the old teams winning? What if it's just the healthiest team winning? And so I'll never count LeBron and Steph out, because those guys still are playing at all NBA levels. And I think, look, if you say who's better positioned this year, probably the Warriors, because they have clarity. They're not trying to save for Luka Doncic's next 5 years. They're just in it for the next 2 years with Steph.
Yeah, David, we'll give you the last word on this one.
I was talking about LeBron and Steph maybe the next couple. I think I'm with Tim on this year, though. This year is OKC's year. I think that the only way that an old team wins is if the OKC adds like a guy who's 155 years old to that bench to raise sort of the average of their team. Because this team is built sort of differently. Right, I did that in my head. I had a calculator.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different than the Nuggets and the Celtics in the fact that there was so little margin of error. You look at the Nuggets, they lose a guy like Brown. They lose some of those people. The Celtics, you deal with the injury or two, and that knocks them off. The Thunder are just built with these waves of guys and this depth and this youth that they can overcome this in a different way. This is the last dynasty. This is the final dynasty in the NBA, and it's a lot of that because of resilience, because of the fact that they have the depth. They had J-Dub was injured all through the playoffs, and they still won the championship. I just think it's hard.
Today alongside Dave McMiniman, David Dennis Jr., and NBA champ, our guy, Kendrick Perkins. So, Dave, you shot that video that we just saw. Luka playing a pretty big role as a recruiter in the Marcus Smart situation. New look for him. So what does that tell you?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the guy he's talking about, Luka Doncic. There was ownership by Luka of this offseason to stamp down that he wants to be part of the Lakers moving forward, and he wants others to join him. So he makes calls to DeAndre Ayton, the guy who came into the draft with him as the #1 pick. Now he's the center for the Lakers. Makes calls to Marcus Smart. Needs to fill the point of attack defender spot that Dorian Finney-Smith occupied last year. He now plays for the Houston Rockets. Gets Marcus Smart to come. And I think as we look forward, we look at that August 2nd date when the Lakers can offer an extension to Luka Doncic worth 4 years, $222 million, up to that figure. And I would say, if you're a Laker fan, you shouldn't have any worry about Luka coming to some sort of an extension or agreement with the Lakers, which means he won't just be a Laker for next season, won't just be a Laker for the season after that. I think at a minimum, we're talking about a 3-year extension.
Perk?
Look, this has accountability and disrespect all over it. And Luka took it right into the offseason. And I know it's early, y'all. I know it's early, and I know it's early for hot takes. But damn it, I'm going out on the limb early in this summertime. And I'm going to say, I'm betting on Luka Doncic to win the MVP next season. This is the type of commitment that I want to see from a great player like Luka. I want to see the videos of him working out. I want to see that he's taking accountability for his losing weight and getting in shape. I want to see him being committed to the organization and to his franchise and to his head coach by reaching out and getting players around him. You talk about getting DeAndre Ayton, they got him, right, a center that he needed. They also went and got a guy, Marcus Smart, who they haven't had a primary defender like that on the wing since Alex Caruso. And now all of a sudden, Luka is saying, I'm ready for this season. I took the disrespect from last season with the Mavs trading me. I'm holding myself accountable. And all the greats in the history of greats have went through some type of adversity or went through some type of thing throughout their career where they had to have an accountability part, and we're seeing that through Luka right now.
I'm sorry. I just, let me rewind a little bit. I just do not totally like the way we've been talking about Luka Doncic in this offseason. You're coming off of one of your worst seasons, not just, performance, but it's like in terms of the expectation, in terms of the injury. The Mavericks moved you out to Los Angeles, and then you got embarrassed in the first round of the playoffs. And we're supposed to be talking about this guy who needs to be an MVP type of dude, and we're celebrating the fact that he looks like he's in shape. Like, that should be a bar, should be way higher than that for somebody of Luka Doncic's caliber of performance right now. You have to be one of the top 3 best players in the league for the Lakers to have a shot not to be bounced in the first round. And I want to hear more than you look like you're in shape on Instagram. By the way, a lot of people who are in shape are still bad at defense. Being in shape doesn't stop you from falling asleep on back screens or being left on the island come playoff time. You have to clear way more hurdles than looking good in the shirt on Instagram. I need to see the Luka Doncic that is in that conversation with Jokic, with Giannis, with those guys like he was before last year, because all this workout video is not moving the needle for me in the way that makes me believe that you're creating an actual contender with that Los Angeles Lakers.
Well, David, did you keep the same energy with Nikola Jokic? Because Nikola Jokic had to go through a stage of his career where he had to get in shape before he had to lose weight and get in shape before he hit a stage to go win the championship. Giannis Antetokounmpo had to put on 50 pounds and work on his body before he went and got to the mountaintop. Steph Curry had to go bust his ass and put on weight and size before he got to the mountaintop. All the greats that have accomplished a goal had to reach some type of adversity. Hell, LeBron James had to leave Cleveland and go to Miami. to learn the recipe and to learn how to learn to reach the mountaintop. Michael Jordan, he took his bumps and bruises against the bad boy Pistons in the Celtics and had to get in the weight room before he reached the mountaintop. This is nothing new. Like, guys hit this as young players that hit the ground running when they come into the league. They hit their head on the wall every now and then all of a sudden they have to bounce back.
Go ahead. Let Dave jump in.
Yeah, it's one thing to hit your head against. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead,
It's one thing to hit your
David.
head against the Pistons, to hit your head on trying to bulk up. It's another thing about hitting your head against, looking like you are in shape. We're talking about Jokic. I watched Jokic play a 3 overtime game in the playoffs. I watched Jokic go full 48 and not worried about if he's going to tire out. He's gone 7 games and done and pushed teams to that limit. These are not things that I worry about. We're talking about LeBron's, Curry's, Giannis's, people like that. I do not worry about if they're in shape at the beginning of the season. I don't need to be worrying about somebody like Luka Doncic.
David, I agree with you. Defensively, he's need to show the commitment. But think about being in shape. He's been a pro basketball player since he's 15 years old. Last year, he missed 7 weeks with the calf injury. It's the longest he hadn't played basketball in 10-plus years as a pro. So his body fell out of shape. The important thing is he's responded to it, worked on his diet, worked on his off-season conditioning, and you should get a better version of him. You had to allow for him dealing with an injury that no other guy, that he's ever dealt with before.
You know what, David? You're also missing this. And it's been a couple years since we had this with Perk. His favorite mocktail is that skinny Luka, and we're getting it this summer. He's going to be drinking a lot of skinny Luka mocktails. Big Perk is going to have those ready. All right, with Marcus Smart now in the lineup, the Lakers get some much-needed depth. So, Perk, I hear something caught your eye.
I'm Kendrick Perkins, better known as Big Perk, and nothing gets past me.
Freeze!
Just when you thought it did get past me, there I am. I spy a problem. I spy it all. Carry the hell on. And I do. And we have this term in my neighborhood. That game recognized game. And Luka recognized game because he's played against Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart and him has battled a lot through his young career, and he knows what it feels like to battle a former Defensive Player of the Year. This is Luka's spot against anybody else in the NBA. I want you to look, this low post area right here. Look at Marcus Smart being able to take the contact, being able to hold it, and make Luka take a tough contested shot. Here you go again. Marcus Smart being the pest that he is, making Luka uncomfortable, forcing him to a tough contested 2-point shot. Luka saying, I know what this guy's gonna bring. I know the tenacity that he has. In Marcus Smart, in Luka's career, against Marcus Smart, he has shot 29.7% when Marcus Smart is the closest defender. Again, game recognized game. It's a reason Luka hopped his ass on that telephone to call Marcus Smart, because he know what he's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I think Marcus Smart is excited. But Dave, you kind of alluded to it earlier. How much of an impact can Smart have? Considering, look, he hasn't played 60-plus games in 3 seasons.
Which is a great point to point out, George. But obviously, he wasn't in the best situations in Memphis because of the injuries they suffered as a total team, and in Washington. I don't even want to call them Washington. He was with the Washington Wizards. You can't use the
no
W.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to win. But he was so excited to be in the Lakers facility yesterday. It was like he got a new lease on life. He's back in a winning situation. Yeah, he's on the other side of the Celtics-Lakers rivalry, of course, but he recognizes that both those franchises play to win perennially. And I think just that kind of effervescent attitude will do a lot for this group. He looks at it like, we got a chance. I asked him, the West is stacked.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I would stack us up against anybody else in the West. We have no ceiling. That, to me, that energy, that confidence will do a lot. Getting this ball rolling in the right direction from day one of training camp.
Yeah, listen, I had Marcus Smart on the radio show on 710 ESPN here in LA, and I asked him about that Wizards situation specifically. Wizards, sorry. He talked about the finger being a real issue, obviously, but I asked him, look, sometimes these teams in their situation, they want to play the young guys and make sure that those guys get some run. And he kind of laughed a little and says, yeah, it's a different circumstance when you're playing on a team like that. So anyway, all right, Marcus Smart isn't the only guy to play for both the Celtics and the Lakers. Shaq is an all-time Lakers great, winning 3 titles, 3 finals MVPs, and a regular season MVP in LA. He also played his final 37 games of his career for Boston and going for 9-5 in that stretch. Then Rajon Rondo, one of 2 players to win titles with both the Celtics and the Lakers, joining Clyde Lovellette. A young Rondo won a title with Perk back in 08 on the Celtics, and then again in the bubble with the Lakers. And then lastly, Isaiah Thomas finished 5th in the MVP voting for the 16-17 Celtics by scoring nearly 29 points per game and trailing only MVP Russell Westbrook in clutch time scoring. He also averaged 14 a game in 21 games for the Lakers later in his career. All right, Perk, let me ask you a question. And this is a tough one because you know people are watching, because they're always watching. Would you have suited up one more season if the Lakers would have come calling?
You damn right I would have. You damn right. Especially for the vet minimum, suit me up, and I would have did my role to the T. And that's sitting on the bench and being the extension of whatever coach they had at the time. You damn right I would have suited up for the Lakers.
All right, fair enough, Perk. I love it. You keep it 100 all the time.
Really excited about the Rockets and the fact that they were able to keep the majority of their young core: Şengün, Jabari, Amin, Tari, Tim. What immediate impact does KD have on this roster?
Well, look, essentially the Houston Rockets turned Jalen Green into Kevin Durant, right? That is an unbelievable upgrade for the Rockets. A big part of why Houston lost in the first round of the playoffs, so Jalen Green simply wasn't good enough as a scorer. Shot under 30% from 3, under 40% from the field. Kevin Durant, while he is not the player he was in the past, is still a guy that is a 50, 40, 90 guy that's an easy 25 on any given night and completely slots in perfectly in the role as this team's primary scorer. It's going to make life easier for Alpi Şengün. It's going to make life easier, as Amen said in that clip, for Amen Thompson. Guys like Jabari Smith and Amen Thompson and Tari Eason can easily fill in the minutes that Dylan Brooks is vacated by being part of that trade. So I think this Rockets team is awfully good. They're awfully deep. There's a reason why there wasn't a huge market for Kevin Durant this summer. He's going to cost a lot of money in an extension. He's an older player, and also the fit in a lot of these situations wasn't necessarily clean. But for Kevin Durant with the Rockets, there is not a better fit in the league than him landing there. I thought it was the one team that always made sense. It's why the Rockets got him, as you've laid out, for a pretty fair price from their standpoint. And it's why they're set up very nicely with having him now on their roster.
Ramona, you and I have talked about this. There's not a better coaching staff fit for Kevin Durant. He respects Ime Udoka so much. Ime coached him with Team USA in Brooklyn. He's really good friends with Rockets assistant coach Royale Ivey from those Longhorn ties. How do you see that benefiting the Rockets?
Oh, look, I mean, we've talked a lot about Kevin Durant over the past, his entire career, but he wants to play basketball, and he wants to just worry about that. He needs the coach to be the coach and be the leader in that locker room and hold guys accountable. And that is what he's going to get with Ime Udoka. Kevin Durant's not going to have to be the loudest voice in the room. He's not going to have to make sure somebody's coming to practice or getting there on time. That's Ime's job.
Yep.
And I think he really appreciates that. And every place he's ever been, that's what he's asked out of the coach. And I think this is probably the best fit he's ever had. I mean, I know they did Oklahoma City. Those were some good fits. The Warriors, I think that sort of ran its course. Obviously, it wasn't a fit in Brooklyn with Steve Nash, and then last year with Budenholzer wasn't great. And this year, Ime Udoka is a guy that he has a relationship with, he trusts. And as you mentioned, Royale Ivey, those guys go back to their Texas days.
Way back.
One thing to follow up on really quick. The other thing, along with Ime Udoka, Fred VanVleet, one of the best leaders in the league. The NBPA just voted him their new president for another 4 years. He'll be in charge of their negotiations in the next CBA. Thought that was an under-the-radar, really big thing in the league going forward. And Fred VanVleet, as the leader of that team with Ime Udoka, to your point with Kevin, he doesn't have to worry about any of that other locker room stuff. He can just go out there and ball and fill it up as he's going to. Ime Udoka, Fred VanVleet will set the culture there. I think it's why it's such a great fit in Houston.
So true, and there are different types of leaders, right? Like Kevin might not be the most vocal, but you have Fred VanVleet. And so, DDJ, I want to get you in on this discussion as well here, because we talk offense with Kevin Durant. But you brought up something interesting with his defensive skills.
Yeah, I think we clearly know what Kevin Durant could do for this team offensively, but I think he's going to add a lot of versatility for the squad on the defensive end. I think Kevin Durant has been kind of an underrated defender throughout his career. He can defend in the paint. He can defend with help defense. The blocks are always there. And what he can do for this team defensively is one of the problems with the Rockets last year is you would have 5 guys playing defense and their offense would come to a halt. You could put Durant out there with 4 great defenders, which the Rockets have, and then allow him to run the offense, and you could put the guys like Amen Thompson, Okogie, which is a sneaky good defensive ad that they just had, Dorian Finney-Smith. You can go super big with Adams and Durant and Sengun, or you could go with Kevin Durant playing center, which he is known to do. There's just so much defensive versatility that you add with Kevin Durant's own defense, but also the fact that you don't have to worry about that offense falling apart if you have too many good defenders out there, because Kevin Durant can just generate so much offense on his own.
Rania, who is in Miami. Shams, why has it been such a slow start to the offseason for the Golden State Warriors?
Vanessa, the Warriors' entire offseason has been essentially on pause for one player, and that's the restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga. And they have wanted to figure out his situation before making their other offseason moves. And so I saw Jonathan Kuminga this morning at a workout in Miami. He's in good spirits. He had a good workout. He did tell me, though, that he is in absolutely no rush on doing a deal with the Warriors right now, and he's not accepting their current offers. He added that he wants to continue to explore options with his agent, Aaron Turner, whether that's continuing conversations with the Warriors, but also sign and trade options that are available to him in the marketplace.
Okay, Sham, so you use the term options. What do those other options for Jonathan Kuminga look like?
I'm told the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings are 2 teams that have made concrete offers with the Warriors over the last week or so. They're 2 of the more aggressive teams with Kuminga, and they're also offering him an opportunity for significant minutes, a starting caliber role in their lineup, and those are 2 things that he wants more than anything. So where this is at, Vanessa, is the Warriors do not want anything, though, that is available to them, is being offered to them in sign and trades. And on the other hand, with Jonathan Kuminga, he is not ready to move forward with taking any of the Warriors' current offers. He's not in a hurry to do a deal there yet. And so 24 days into the offseason, it's a staring contest between these 2 sides that could continue much longer than just this month. And so we're nearing August and still no Warriors move so far this offseason.
Great info for sure. Thank you, Shams. Okay, so the Warriors' 3 most important players are at least 35 years old, with Steph set to turn 38 in March, and Jimmy Butler turns 36 before the season even starts. Perk, there's been so much talk about Kuminga this offseason. When he is given an actual opportunity, what does he bring to the table?
He brings a lot. I mean, they drafted him number 7 overall in the lottery, in 2021, and he's gotten better every single season. He brings athleticism to the table on both ends of the floor. He's got better offensively. We have the tape to show it. I have a breakdown right here. When you look at Kuminga, look at his ability to get out and transition. He's one of the most athletic guys in the NBA, getting out space and running, finishing at the rim with authority, especially playing alongside Draymond Green. And we talk about how crucial the on-ball defenders are in the league at the wing position. You got a guy that's 6'8", 230 pounds that could defend at a high level. Watch this switch on Anthony Edwards, and then all of a sudden, no help, sit down, slide those puppies, get a great contest right there. He didn't hope that he missed, he made him miss. And so my question to the Warriors is, the organization and Steve Kerr is, why hasn't Steve Kerr embraced this young man? Why hasn't he wrapped his arms around him as a guy that y'all drafted with the number 7 pick? When Steph Curry went out last postseason, the back end of the Timberwolves, the games against the Timberwolves in the playoffs, he did his thing. So you're developing this young stud who, to me, has an all-NBA type ceiling. What is the problem? Every coach that I've seen, all-time greats, have adjusted. Whether that was Greg Popovich, whether that was, Rick Carlisle, they all made adjustments to this new era and these new guys in the NBA. That's what the Warriors need to do. They need to value this young man because he's elite. He has an elite upside.
Well, it's not that the Warriors don't value Jonathan Kuminga, right? Obviously, if they didn't value him, they would have just gotten rid of him this offseason and in whatever sign and trade they could do. The problem that the Warriors have with Jonathan Kuminga, that Jonathan Kuminga has with the Warriors, that it's just a very awkward fit. As we saw in that clip, or in those numbers there, Jonathan Kuminga put up big numbers with Steph Curry out of the lineup. But if you have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler dominating the ball, that means Jonathan Kuminga needs to fill in the gaps and do some smaller things for them, which are things he has been very inconsistent with and has struggled with at times. And playing a smaller role has been an issue with the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga going forward. It's why the Jonathan Kuminga situation, to Perk's point, has not played out in the way he and the Warriors would like. But at the same time, we're also looking at a restricted free agent market where there is no salary cap space available. So sign and trades are hard. Yeah, both the Kings and Suns have interest, as Sean's put it out earlier, but both of those teams don't have salary cap space to offer Jonathan Kuminga to sign him. So they have to send money back to Golden State that Golden State is not interested in taking back. So all of this, I think, points toward Jonathan Kuminga signing a short-term deal with Golden State at some point this summer that both gives them the ability to do something with him later and also gives them the ability to build on that play he had at the end of that postseason without Steph on the court, which, to Perk's point, showed what he can do and gives them, I think, some reason to come into next season if he's there saying, we need to try to find a way to showcase what this guy can do, either so he can have him improve with us or we can have him improve us by moving him into trade somewhere else.
Value depends on so much, right? Like, value depends what team you're on. What does the market look like? So, David, what is Jonathan Kuminga's actual value in free agency and on this Warriors team?
Well, that's the tricky thing, right? I mean, for the Warriors, I think that they have to figure this Jonathan Kuminga thing out, because that is the difference between being sort of in the middle of this, log jam at the bottom of the Western Conference or being an actual contender. Like, I think that they have, the zero moves is alarming for some people, but Anthony Melton's probably coming. Al Horford's probably coming. And then you have the idea that Kuminga is going to, you cannot have a gaping hole of Jonathan Kuminga not being on this team or whatever they're trying to get back from him. The problem is, as Tim has alluded to, this team was 0-7 in the playoffs when he played more than 20 minutes. What his value is to the Golden State Warriors is that they need a guy who can fill in those gaps, who can get those rebounds, who can play defense, who can fill in different positions. He has not quite been able to do that, and part of that is Steve Kerr, as Perk said, has been pulling the plug on Kuminga a little bit too early and not allowing him to fit into that. So the mix has been really kind of a mess, and Steve Kerr really has to take on the leadership and say, how can I figure out this Kuminga situation this year? Because, again, he is the difference between giving a little bit of more room in this window for the Warriors this season and this thing being another early exit for him.
Well, speaking of the Warriors championships, we always, with dynasties, talk about windows, right? So, Kendrick Perkins, is their championship window still open?
It's still open. I believe it's still there. Anytime you have Steph Curry, you have Jimmy Butler. We saw how they elevated their game last postseason before the injuries happened. And Draymond Green, he still has the ability to be, a great defender and anchor that defense. I love what I saw out of Podziemski last postseason. I thought towards the end of the season and the postseason, he started to grow. But again, this Jonathan Kuminga space, this Jonathan Kuminga situation, you need a guy like this. You need athleticism at the wing position. When you look at the top two teams, in my eyes, in the Western Conference, you're looking at Oklahoma City Thunder. Obviously, they just won the NBA championship. And then you're looking at the Houston Rockets. They keep loading up on the wing position. I ain't talking about Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm talking about bodies. That's how important it is. The athleticism is the most important position in the damn NBA. And they have a guy in Jonathan Kuminga, as David just alluded to, that could move the needle for them to take them over the hump if they just embrace him.
The problem with the Warriors having a championship window, and the problem with anybody else, even including the Houston Rockets having a championship window in the West, is because there's a team that just won 68 games and won the title in the West that had two players older than 27 on their roster. So I think there's a very small window for just about anybody in the West to win a title right now, including Golden State. However, the Warriors did go 22-5 with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry down the stretch. They do have a very high ceiling. Steph has always given the Thunder a lot of trouble. If they can get to the playoffs healthy, I do think they have a chance to make a run. But again, right now, to me, it's Oklahoma City and everybody else out west.
Yeah, that window is closing very fast, but there's two little light-skinned hands right there on the window pane keeping it open. And that's Steph Curry, the fact that this dude is still a top 5 player in this league. And you got to remember, as you said at the very beginning, he is one hamstring injury away possibly from being in that conference finals against that Thunder team. I am not going to be doing anything that counts this dude out, but the Warriors need to figure some of these things out in the margins to make it as possible as they can for him to end his career making a few playoff runs.
One other real quick thing to add. At some point this offseason, whenever the Jonathan Kuminga thing gets sorted out, I think it's very likely Horford winds up with the Golden State Warriors. He will help them an awful lot whenever that move gets done, assuming everything gets cleared up with Jonathan Kuminga.
My guy Perk looked confused by DDJ's point. Perk, do you disagree?
Vanessa, let's go to commercial because David just said that Steph Curry is still. David just said that Steph Curry still is a top 5 player in the NBA, and Tim said it's Oklahoma City and everybody else. Like the Rockets just didn't get Kevin Durant. They finished second in the Western Conference last year.
Oh, I think the Rockets
without Kevin Durant, and now the Rockets have Kevin Durant. Trust me, I hear you.
Rockets are going to be quite good, Kirk. Don't worry. I'm not doubting them.
Extension decision.